And today one political party is particularly re-invoking that same casteist sentiments in India. Dividing the majority, uniting the minority. Some idiots will be there as actors, don't worry about them. But Prakash Raj is a very, very serious ideologue. He exactly has absolute ideological clarity as to what he's doing. Agents of American deep state are currently sitting in Modi government. A lot of people who are a part of the Vajpayee establishment have now turned against Modi. Please watch out the next generation, because Instagram is involved in actively promoting sexuality. We have one Rajiv Malhotra, one Vikram Sampath, one Jesai Deepak. No. We need at least 500 of them. Do you know, before the 2024 elections, there was an entire ecosystem which was ready to capture the levers of power and remandalize Indian politics. I'm sure all of you, at least the senior generation, remembers the Mandal politics of the 90s. Right? Those days where a student in Delhi University near the Hindu college was set on fire. The Mandal agitation in the Delhi Students' Union Association was absolutely gruesome. The horror stories that come out of it. And yet, we mandalized our politics and gave rise to the OBC politics. And today, one political party is particularly re-invoking that same casteist sentiments in India. Dividing the majority, uniting the minority. This has been a deliberate strategy of the deep state, because they know how to come to power. You just need 35% of votes, right? You divide the majority, unite the minority. How much percent minority has votes? Maybe somewhere around 15%, right? Our divided majority will also vote for them, different caste groups. Everything put together, somewhere around 35% votes. They achieved the magic number of 272 in the parliament. Not very difficult. They came close. This time they came close. They came, I think, around 220 or something. They achieved more than 200 seats, these forces, and brought the BJP down to 240. Right? These are very large players, but I will focus today on one player whom I personally know. And he is a big person in the academia. I will not name the institution, I will not name where he or she is working, but he is a very prominent academic in Bangalore, whom I personally know of. And sometimes I do work with him. Unfortunately, what to do? Given the academic ecosystem, we sometimes have to reach out to such people. Now observe this quote very carefully. Henry Kissinger, the great Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State to Nixon and the former National Security Advisor to America, says this: to be an enemy of America can be dangerous, to be its friend is fatal. So if India is advancing its strategic partnerships closer to America, it has to realize what it is getting into. You can trust US as your enemy, that is fine. If you are not too close to US, that's fine. If you become their friend, they will ensure that CIA also has a station in New Delhi, along with our intelligence. So that is the level of compromise they expect their allies to achieve. Because their allies, technically as per the US, must be subservient to them. They must never rise up in hierarchy. They must never rise up in stature or status. US always likes its allies to be its underdog. And they enjoy that status. US deep state absolutely enjoys that status. And some of our own people who've been going to America, who've been going to Europe, who've been renting rooms in Cambridge University. They've rented a room in Cambridge University, gave a speech and said, in Cambridge someone has given a speech. Right? They've rented a room, that's all. I think you people have rented this room. Similarly, he would have rented a room in Cambridge, some hall over there. And he has said that, no, I have given a speech in Cambridge University. No, Cambridge did not invite that person. But there was all strategies which were ready to remandalize Indian politics. Thank God we got the NDA back. Otherwise, in the next couple of years, there were all the strategies which was devised by the Congress, where they would have taken us back to the 1990s politics, the era of 1990s. Absolutely divisive, Do you see there is a rise in all this Bahujan Samaj, Dalit Samaj, and in Karnataka there is a rise of this movement called Namma Banavasi. Devlur Mahadeva and his entire gang. Now, why is there sudden prompting that they are doing? Because there is an ecosystem that is already here, right? Watch out for people. Observing international players, the Gandhi Parivars, of course, the NSA will be watching them. But watch out for people like Devlur Mahadeva. Watch out for people like Purushottam Billimal. Watch out for people like Prakash Raj. Watch out. Some idiots will be there as actors, don't worry about them. But Prakash Raj is a very, very serious ideologue. He exactly has absolute ideological clarity as to what he's doing. And there is this very interesting character in Kannada film industry, a very unsuccessful underdog actor. What is his name? Ahimsa, Chetan Ahimsa? Ahimsa. Very interesting. Because the communist movement always was himsa to achieve its goal. But this person is advocating ahimsa. Very interesting. So yes, coming back to someone whom I want to expose. Please observe this very carefully. And I will explain this in complete detail now. This person, Professor X, right? His name is Professor X. I am not naming him. I will be under trouble. And if I name him, if I expose him directly, there will be cases filed on me. He's a very big guy. He has all contacts in the IFS, IAS, IPS. He knows all the top admirals in the Indian Navy. He knows all the top army guys. So I'll be in deep trouble if I name this person. But please listen to the story that I have to say. As a fictional story, but it's a reality. It's a real story. I'm fictionalizing it. For security purposes, my own individual security. I'll be under the line of fire if I take names. So, there is something known as Mike factor that I've written here. Money, ideology, compromise, ego. 4 important factors as to every person needs to understand and realize this. These are the 4 factors how people get compromised. Why do people get compromised? People in top offices, government officials, intelligence officers, police officers, academics, right? Politicians sometimes. Why do they get compromised? I'm talking about those people who have access to the topmost, secret documents in India, topmost security narratives in India, topmost security policy decision making is taken by some of these people. Right? What motivates them? These are the 4 factors that motivates them. In fact, I have to thank my dear friend Dhruv for citing the Mike factor. It is because of him I understood this very interesting phenomenon. Money, ideology, compromise, ego. Of course, money, you can buy people from money. Very, very important factor. Some people don't have ideology. They are opportunists. They only operate with money. They only want money. Right? And if you pay them, they'll be compromised. The second is ideology. Ideology is an extremely important factor. It might not be for the right. Right doesn't care about the ideological framework because most people in the right do not understand what their own ideology is. Because no one has read, the Hindutva doctrine of Savarkar. No one has read, the integral humanism of Deen Dayal Upadhyay. No one has read the purposes of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. No one understands the ideological opponent of Indian Marxism, which is Hindutva. Hindutva as an ideology is grossly misunderstood, or it is not at all understood. Because we don't want to understand. We care about our daily lives. We come, we have a chat-room session. We work in MNCs. We are most people who come from the right wing are largely professionals. They are into, as Sir was mentioning, they're all chartered accountants, they're all lawyers, they're all doctors, they're engineers, right? Mostly the STEM fields. Right is mostly involved in the STEM field, but the humanities. Please remember the humanities, arts, social sciences, literature. People who are extremely active in all these backgrounds, people who control your society's narratives. They operate from a very, very stern, very, very affirmative and a definitive ideological framework. And today that ideological framework is post-Marxist frameworks like postmodernism, post-structuralism, wokeism. These ideologies are taken very, very seriously. And Rajiv Malhotra ji in this book, I recommend this book to all of you. Please, please read this book. The amount of intellectual service Shri Rajiv Malhotra ji has done for us. He might not live for long. He might live for another 5-6 years. He's already 75 years old. Snakes in the Ganga, Breaking India 2.0. He extensively talks about the critical caste theory in the Harvard University that has been innovated now. The Harvard University is creating archives after archives as to how they study Indian society, history, polity, philosophy, society, sociological frameworks, anthropology, archaeology, politics, international relations, all these domains, literature. These have been, there is an entire pool of archives created in Harvard. Right? Harvard India study is a very major project, and this project in India is commanded by Indian deep state. How, you might ask? Look at Ashoka University, what's happening there, right? All sons and daughters of all the IAS, IPS, IFS officers, they all go to Ashoka for status symbol. And the kind of things they learn from there, very weird and absurd. Morning there will be a man, in the afternoon there will be a female, in the evening they will be a transgender, and towards the night while they go to bed they become a queer. Gender fluidity, right? Tomorrow, whoever is educating your children, please watch out them in schools. Who are the people who are teaching your children literature, English language, social sciences, right? Some other specialized programs in the name of sex education. Travesty is happening. Young children have been sexualized. Indian deep state is very, very hands in glove with them. They're totally hand in glove with the American movement. So there's a danger coming up to us, but I'll talk about it later, but this is probably one of the more significant examples. The background of Professor X here. He was a very prominent man. He was a senior research fellow in IPCS, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. He is one of India's topmost experts on Sri Lanka as well. Right? And when the Congress came to power, Professor X came into the contact of the NSCS. How? NSCS is what? National Security Council Secretariat, to which today Ajit Doval is the head. The NSA is the chief of the NSCS, National Security Council Secretariat. Major decisions on India's national security, international or national, external or internal, are taken here. Policy decisions related to Indian national security is taken in this National Security Council Secretariat. It's a classified organization. You won't find anything much in public domain or in the internet because it's classified. Most information here is classified, right? So I'm creating a linkage here, right? For that linkage to understand, you need to understand this DNSA. Who is the DNSA? DNSA stands for Deputy National Security Advisor. I am talking about a very prominent diplomat who was the Deputy National Security Advisor during the UPA regime. Again, I will not name that person because of security reasons. Okay. Now this person, you must know his background. He had a very interesting role. You know how? Do you know who convinced Vajpayee to release Rahul Gandhi when he was caught in the drugs case in America? It was the same Deputy NSA. And this Deputy NSA at that point of time was a joint secretary in the Prime Minister's office under Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He was an advisor to the External Affairs Ministry, from the External Affairs Ministry to the PMO. This person convinced Vajpayee saying that please release Rahul, otherwise we'll have a lot of problem. Our international stature will be under question. He is the son of the former Prime Minister. He did all his convincing tactic and finally convinced Vajpayee to get Rahul Gandhi released. This is a very big name. That's why today I said I will be dropping the names of a few people. In private conversations probably I can reveal their names, but on screen I cannot. Such an important person then was promoted as a Deputy National Security Advisor Deputy National Security Advisor is someone who has the status of Minister of State, almost Deputy Cabinet rank in the Government of India, very, very senior official, right, who controls the diplomatic affairs, who controls the internal security, military affairs. They are the Deputy NSAs. And this Deputy NSA whom I am talking about, Mr. Ambassador, this Deputy NSA was the diplomatic advisor to the UPA as the Deputy National Security Advisor. And you know who was the NSA at that point. That point the NSA was Mr. Shiv Shankar Mani. It's public knowledge, everyone knows it. Right. So, this man now had a lot of linkages. Who this Deputy NSA? Please listen to this case very carefully, because this is not there anywhere in public domain. Probably only 2 people in this room know about this case. And for the first time in public domain, I am keeping this case. This is a very, very serious matter. Now, Professor X, coming back to Professor X, he was a very prominent academic in the IPCS. He was a senior research fellow, doing a great job on Sri Lanka. And he was very close to the ambassador, who was the Deputy NSA. Very close. They both had close linkages. And when ambassador was promoted as the Deputy NSA during the UPS regime, he was a joint secretary before in the MEA, and he was promoted as the Deputy National Security Advisor. He came to the National Security Council Secretariat, became a part of the team under Shiv Shankar Mani, former NSA. Right? So, what happened at that point of time? Professor X got a very senior role, very, very major role in the National Security Council. This Professor X became the senior research affiliate in the National Security Advisory Board and the National Security Council Secretariat. He used to coordinate between these 2 forums on a regular basis. Senior research affiliate, a very major position. What is the role of a senior research affiliate? They draft policy matters on national security. That is the amount of serious role they play in our establishment. Very, very major role. Right? So, this man has links with all kinds of people. All kinds of people. Right? Today he is getting a lot of funding. He is in a very major institution today. He is getting a lot of US money. Do you know, recently in the last year, he got 13 crores from the State Department. 13 crore rupees to work on the India-US strategic partnership. 13 crore rupees. Huge sum of money. Throughout the lifetime, no academic can in India who is even a UGC professor cannot earn so much of money. In one shot, 13 crore rupees. And this same Professor X also got money to study Indian elections. Right? From the USA, from the State Department. USAID is involved, State Department is involved. See, my next slide is about USAID and State Department. I'll explain that. But please focus on this, because this person, only I know personally what he has done. And I've hacked this case, and I'm 100% sure, at least 80% sure as to most of this information that I have accessed here is true. Why is this man getting so much of funds from USA? Why did he get a grant of 30 lakh rupees just to study the US election? Right? Sorry, the Indian elections. I'm so sorry. Right? US government is funding this man to study Indian elections. US government is funding this man to develop India-US strategic partnerships. He runs a think tank in Bangalore. He runs a very prominent think tank in Bangalore, inside a college. No names here. No names, because one day I drop here, people will, somehow get to know. And my career will be under the line of fire. So I don't want that to happen. But please realize, this is what this Professor X is doing here. This Professor X is getting constant funds from America. And it is through a CIA agent. Right? And this CIA agent is in constant touch with the Professor X ever since his days in the NSA office, right, which is the NSCS. Ever since those days, the CIA agent is in touch with him. Constantly, even today, this CIA agent is in touch with Professor X. Right? What is this person? What is the CIA agent doing? She is a senior security analyst. She was the Deputy National Security Advisor to in the Biden administration. And in the previous administration, in the Bush administration also, she was there. She was both a Democrat and a Republican. She is there in every bloody, establishment in US because she is a part of CIA. Everyone knows that. And in her LinkedIn profile, she has openly mentioned that she was a senior security analyst in CIA who was working on South Asia. Right? Now, what is all this linkage? You will be confused, why this CIA agent is involved, why this Deputy National Security is involved. This Deputy National Security Advisor, for your instance, Mr. Ambassador, I will call him Mr. Ambassador here. Mr. Ambassador was one of the key negotiators during the Indo-US nuclear agreement that happened in 2005 as well as, it matured in 2009. Right? And also, this was the same Deputy National Security Advisor during Brijesh Mishra time. Brijesh Mishra was India's first NSA. During his time, this fellow was, negotiating with the Bill Clinton's regime for, reducing sanctions on India. And this person is one of India's top nuclear experts. In nuclear diplomacy, this person is a major name. A bigger name than Jaishankar, I am telling you. A bigger name in the foreign services. Very well respected, highly regarded. But after 2018, the last time I saw him was in Brookings Institute in America in 2018. After that, he is not to be seen anywhere. Where is he? No one knows. No one knows. A Deputy National Security Advisor of India, a very senior position in the National Security establishment. No one knows where this fellow is. No one knows. Right? And when we work with such people like Professor X, I understand their Machiavellian nature. He's so Machiavellian, he never lets me close to him. In fact, I requested him to be a part of his think tank as a research fellow. He said, you don't have a suitable role. You're too hawkish. And you are a Sanghi. He often keeps, intending pun at me. He says that I'm a Sanghi. So you don't have a position here. You can get lost. You can ask your own people. One day he was telling me in cafeteria, we were sipping coffee with him. So he's telling me, you ask your Sanghi fellows, they will do your appointment. They will get you into a central university. All useless fellows are getting into a central university. You also get in. Why do you want us to, give you positions here in our think tanks? You have no role here. You can get lost. So total alienation. Because he exactly knows the kind of background that I come from. He exactly knows that if I come across some state secrets of the government of India, right, I will take it to the right people. If I get to know his role in the establishment, I will take it to the right people and expose him. But without even knowing anything, without even having access to his insider institution, I have exposed a lot of things about this man. And it will be surprising for you to know, I have written the CCS, NSCS and BARC and nuclear diplomacy. Just come to that line and focus on that line now. See, CCS means Cabinet Committee on Security, where Prime Minister of India, External Affairs Minister, the Finance Minister, Home Minister and the Defence Minister, along with the National Security Advisory team, the entire team, sits in that meeting. Major decisions on national security by the Cabinet of India is taken only by these people. Right? Home, Defence, Finance, External Affairs and the Prime Minister, of course. Prime Minister is the head of the Cabinet Committee on Security, CCS. Right? CCS and NSCS, NSCS is National Security Council Secretariat. Now, why have I said BARC? BARC is the expose here. Professor X and Deputy NSA had secret access to BARC. Right? Why did they have access to BARC? Because they were negotiators in the Indo-US nuclear deal. They were negotiators, both of them. In some roles they were involved in, even in the Pokhran blasts. Deputy NSA was involved. This officer whom I am talking about in the IFS, he was involved in the Pokhran blasts. He was, as I said, he was negotiating with the Clinton regime. One of the top experts on nuclear security. These people have access to India's nuclear secrets. How India's nuclear technology developed, number one. They have access to where our nuclear arsenal is kept. Right? They exactly know the amount of the formula as to how India's nuclear weapons are manufactured. They have complete details about India's nuclear weapons arsenal, which is there in India. Complete details about it. They know entirely everything about India's nuclear weapons and India's nuclear doctrine. And one of these deputy NSAs was also involved in framing India's nuclear doctrine. So I am talking about a very big name here. Very, very big name. And this deputy NSA is not seen anywhere. This ambassador whom I am talking about, he is not seen anywhere. But this Professor X is involved and he is very active. And you know, now I talked about the CIA links that these two fellows had, right? Probably the deputy NSA would have had greater access to senior officials in the CIA, but this woman who was the head of South Asian affairs, I will not take her name also, and I know her. To all your surprise, I know this woman. So, you know, she is a very kind, is a very polished, sophisticated woman. She is presently working in a top American think tank, which is the face of Pentagon, the US Department of Defense. She is there currently. So that's why Trump is targeting all these people. Trump exactly knows these people are a liability for America as well as a great threat to the entire world. They destabilize the world. Why they destabilize the world? The very simple reason is they want to create anarchy in the world order. Once they create anarchy, what happens? The military industrial complex of America, the defense industries and their entire defense establishment gets a lot of contracts. Right? So war must be a constant affair for Pentagon. War must be a constant affair for US State Departments. They will have a lot of jobs and their economy will boom. Right? That was what was happening in Ukraine. Right? The Biden administration was giving money and that same money used to come back to the US defense industry. And every senior congressman has got a cut, irrespective of whether they are Republican or Democrat. That's why I say that I always assume this Trump is an outlier in the government style. He is definitely an outlier. He is neither a Republican, a traditional Republican nor a Democrat. He doesn't care what happens. He is exposing everyone. He will reveal a lot of names to Prime Minister Modi. He's personally said it. And you know, to our surprise, he's even given Bangladesh to PM Modi. He says I'm handing over Bangladesh to PM Modi. Modi will handle it. Then you know, one of the few leaders Donald Trump actually respects happens to be Modi. He doesn't respect a lot of people. He has friends. I mean, friendship is different. But above friendship, you develop a certain amount of reverence to the craftsmanship in politics, right? The statesmanship in politics. Such statesmanship qualities President Trump sees in Mr. Modi. So this relationship is very different. So that is the reason why we don't have to even worry about the tariff regimes and anything. Nothing much is going to happen. You must be thankful that right Prime Minister is in control of the national security. Because previously in the UPA regime, look at the amount of damage that was happening. Look at the amount of damage. Do you know all the details of India's nuclear security is today with the CIA? The CIA has access, complete access to India's nuclear technology, where Indian nuclear weapons are kept, how much arsenal is there, where all these things are placed. They have access to some of the military intelligence files. They have access to the files in the National Security Council. They have access to the files in the Cabinet Committee on Security. All these files, and I am making a big revelation here, all these files of the Cabinet Committee on Security, National Security Council were all taken by this Professor X and given to the CIA officer. In broad daylight this is happening. And this person openly is posing that he is getting a lot of money from the State Department. Openly. And no action is taken on him. No action so far because we do not have clinching evidence on this case. I am the first person to find out that this has happened. Right? So you can see in the next line, the top access that he got, all these files now have been transferred to the CIA. CIA exactly knows everything about India's nuclear program. They should not know about it. We know nothing about the American nuclear program, not much. Not at least the internal details. But all of the Indian details are with the CIA. You go to the CIA, probably you can get access to all the Indian files. Who transferred all the Indian files to the CIA? These two people. Deputy NSA initiated it, Professor X carried it forward and gave all the files to the CIA. This is the level to which Indian academics have been compromised, and I am seeing it in front of my eyes. I am helpless. I am in a very helpless situation. I can't even name people because of the consequences. Right? Very, very major revelation. Please keep in your mind. Please keep in your mind. Right? So, our national security has been compromised severely under the UPA regime because of these two people. Moving on to the players who are involved. The State Department is involved here. The US aid, the very infamous US aid, which will be merged with the State Department now. Trump is very critical of the activities that US aid was doing, right? What is US aid? US aid is a United States Agency for International Development, right? So-called international development. United States government for civilian and foreign aid agency. It is involved in various international so-called developmental activities. They do nothing developmental. They only invest in places where they can reap something out of it, right? They only invest in places where they can cause some instability. All across the world they are doing it. Of course, the African nations are helpless. In Africa, the US aid's role has been notorious. They have played a notorious role in Africa. But even in other parts of the world, the US aid has played a very, very nasty role. And so thanks to Trump, now the US aid's activities will be clamped down very, very heavily. Second is the US State Department. Of course, it is an underdog. US State Department, not many people know about, not many people talk about. But it is through the US State Departments that international aid, assistance, grants to think tanks, universities, academics, everyone, all these people get money, right? They are mentioned, their main purpose is to strengthen the deep strategic ties and create strategic assets in countries across the world. Strategic assets, very important word, strategic asset. So, Professor X happens to be a strategic asset of the American deep state, sitting and actively working in Indian academia. And the Indian government is not able to do anything. He is hosting a lot of conferences, he is hosting a lot of seminars, he is calling India's top military leaders, top people from the MEA. He has access to every think tank in the world, in India and across the world. He and his students are thriving from the money that they are getting out of the US aid and State Department. And research scholars like us, no funding, no money, nationalist cause, work on voluntary basis. So this is the hard reality, some of the harsh realities that is there in academia. And academic institutions very happily accept funding from such agencies. If someone is funding your academic 13 crores, will you deny it? No, never. This Professor X got, I told right, this Professor X also got 30 lakh rupees to study Indian elections and reported to the America. Because he is an agent, he is the strategic asset. He is the asset of American deep state who is actively working in India. Right? So please keep these things in mind because it's important for us to understand. And of course, other than this, we also need to understand some of the top people who are currently working in the deep state. American deep state in Indian establishment. This is a name, I am not afraid to take it because it's already there on Twitter. So I am quoting this Twitter handle called Neo. I follow this man very carefully. He does a lot of exposes of the present BJP establishment and the people involved in the BJP establishment who are working very closely with the Prime Minister, working closely with the ministries, government officials, everyone. This fellow keeps exposing everyone. So please focus on this. See, Professor Shamika Ravi happens to be a member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. She is a very senior member. Right? Surjit Balla's name is also mentioned here. Surjit Balla was the chairman for Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council previously. Under Modi. These people are working under Modi. They have cabinet rank under PM Modi. They are sitting in the Prime Minister's office and working. And they have actively received funding from the State Department, actively received funding from the USA. Agents of American deep state are currently sitting in Modi government. Look at this woman. I had a lot of respect for Shamika Ravi. I have a lot of respect for her. She is an excellent academic, one of the top economists. She was with Brookings previously. Now she is with the PMO. Now she is in the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council as a member. It's a rank of an MOS, Minister of State. Very senior ranking in the Indian government. If you can look at that, the PMESC, the government symbol is mentioned and her image is mentioned, Dr. Shamika Ravi. She has access to all global institutions. She studied in Oxford under Rhodes Scholarship. Right? So, a very major name. And what has she done? We do not know what exactly she has done, but she is totally involved in collating information with the State Department. Right? All top informations about policy decision making that happens in the PMO, even today, is probably reaching the US deep state. This is also a revelation which I discovered, and I was shocked. I am still in a state of shock. I am not able to digest that someone of Professor Shamika Ravi's nature is involved in such nefarious activities. I am still not able to believe it. But the reality is there in front of you. This is I am just quoting this Twitter handle. This is there in the public domain. You can follow Mr. Neo. Neo Revolt is the name of this Twitter handle. He operates in disguise. We don't know who this person is. But whatever he is doing a service to the nation. I think we should all do this. I must expose even the Professor X under a fake Twitter handle. It's better I do that. It's better. I think all of you have heard about true indology. That's a lot of exposing. Right? Similarly, we should also start doing it. Because it's high time we expose those people who have compromised India's nuclear program in America. India's nuclear program is compromised today, and the reason is Professor X. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with a very, very serious problem here. Right? I did not want to, give the big expose and the big names here, because everyone knows about what Rahul Gandhi is doing. Everyone knows about what the Congress is up to. Right? They hugely compromise. Everyone knows about it. There is nothing special that I can, reveal to all of you. All of you are well-informed citizens. Right? You are all professionals. You exactly know the nature and the working of the Congress ecosystem. But even today, the Congress ecosystem is very powerful. And the reason is people like this have been appointed by our own government. They are sitting in universities. They are vice chancellors, they are professors, they are academics, they are think tankers, they are in government roles, they are IFS officers, especially the IFS. I name and shame the IFS today for having people like the Deputy NSA, who is also a member of the IFS. And he is very senior to Jaishankar. He is 5 years senior to Jaishankar in the Foreign Service. A man of his stature, a man who worked under Shiv Shankar Menon. It's a compromised fellow. It's a shocking revelation, and we must all be concerned about it. Right? We also know about one former vice president who was also compromised. Right? This former vice president, also a part of the Congress establishment, revealed all the information about Indian assets in the Gulf. The entire Indian assets in the Gulf, the RNAW assets who were active, were all punished. They were killed. They were tortured. Firstly by the Iranian establishment, then by all the Middle Eastern governments. Because the entire intelligence program that RNAW was running in Middle East was compromised by one ambassador in the 1990s. He was our former vice president. Right? Think about this. This is a very, very, very serious issue. Because while discovering some of these facts, and even while speaking and while revealing these names, I am totally afraid, because I am no one. Who am I in the establishment? I am just a research scholar who is doing some research in a normal university in Bangalore. What can I do beyond this? Right? Do I have any state agencies with me? Am I an asset of the research and analysis wing? Am I a part of the intelligence bureau? No. Am I a part of the IPS? No. An ordinary civilian, I have taken interest to put out and reveal these names, because you must know who is the enemy within. Enemy outside everyone knows. Congress everyone knows. Right? We know what Kapil Sibal does, what Barkha Dutt does, what Rajdeep Sardesai. They have been already exposed. These names have already been exposed, and some of these names will come back from President Trump to PM Modi. Trump has said that he will reveal all those names who were involved in manipulating Indian elections. All those names will be revealed, but will these names be revealed who are within? I am not sure. Will Professor X's name will also come, because Professor X has studied Indian elections. He has taken money. Yesterday I was watching a video of Arnab Goswami. He very clearly said about the same exact thing. Indian academics are taking money. $10,000, $20,000. And this person, Professor X, has taken more than $2 lakh. I don't know how much money that is. I have estimated it somewhere close to be 13 to 14 crores. This much of money only one person has made sitting in Bangalore. Huge, right? Again, coming back to the Mike factor, money, ideology, compromise, ego. This man, this deputy NSA, had ego issues as well, right? He was not taken up by the Modi government. He was very upset. In 2014, he expected him to be a part of the National Security Council. He expected his name to come up as the chairman for the National Security Advisory Board, very senior position. Modi did not choose him. Modi chose Mr. Raghavan, Ambassador Raghavan, PS Raghavan, to be the chairman of the National Security Advisory Board. And Mr. Ambassador Raghavan is very close to me. Personally know him very well. And I've been interacting with Mr. Raghavan, and Raghavan also confirmed this news to me, that this man was doing suspicious. He was doing a lot of suspicious activities in the establishment. It is confirmed. Right? So that is why today, we talk about who are the big names, big revelations, big exposes. Isn't this big enough? Isn't this big enough? Please tell me. One within the PMO, one in the academia, who are constantly working to compromise India's national interest, India's national security, and India's development. These people do not have India's interests at heart. They have their personal interests, or they have ideological goals. They are hugely compromised people. And ego issues. If you don't appoint me, I will turn against you. A lot of people who are a part of the Vajpayee establishment have now turned against Modi. You know all those big names. Arun Shourie, Yashwant Sinha. Right? There are several other names. Sudhindra Kulkarni, the political advisor to Mr. Advani. And even Advani committed mistakes listening to him. Huge blunders. Praising Pakistan, even Jinnah to some extent. So that's why you should have the right advisors with you. Nationalist advisors. Extremely, extremely important. So, see, now you have understood the players, but it's important to understand the ideological framework. According to me, what drives the deep state, what motivates the deep state to be active is ideology. You cannot motivate youngsters only with money. Never ever. You can motivate youngsters with ideology that they are liberating you. You all remember the Ranveer Alabadia issue? Yes. Yeah, that happened. Do you know it was the work of the American and the Chinese deep state? They created social bots on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on all other platforms to aggravate this issue. Ranveer Alabadia's issue was not a very major issue, although I disagree with his statement. Totally disagree, completely disagreeable. But his issue was a diversionary tactic, right, from the major news in India, which was India-US strategic partnership is developing, and President Trump has had very important conversations with Mr. Modi, and he will reveal certain names of the deep state. He will expose certain names of the deep state. It is going to happen very soon. Mark my words. I don't know whether all of us will get to know, but yeah, I think through my sources I think I should get to know a few people. But yes, youngsters, coming back to this topic, please remember all these ideological frameworks. Right? Cultural Marxism, very, very important. Please note down a book written by Professor Niranjan Pooja. He is a Central University of Karnataka professor. He's in the School of Management. Right? Niranjan Pujar has written an excellent book on cultural Marxism and how these people are affecting us. Cultural Marxism says it wants to dismantle the cultural, civilizational, heritage aspects of every country. Right? The major thing is it targets is the civilizational unity of a nation. It never aspires to have a civilizational unity. It always wants a division, a fragmentation, and that is how through violent means, right, the proletariat or the working class must be liberated. And this ideology was propounded by Antonio Gramsci, and we as students of political science have studied him for ages. But of course, for all of your reference, you can refer to Professor Niranjan Pujar's book on cultural Marxism. It's just titled as Cultural Marxism by Professor Niranjan Pujar. You will get it. Then postmodernism, post-structuralism, social justice, ESG, DEI, post-truth, caste narratives, tribalism and native identity. All these things have been already exposed by Rajiv Malhotra in this book. Right? Snakes in the Ganga, Breaking India 2.0. Major work, and I think this is one of the greatest intellectual contribution in the past decade, I would say. I dare to say that, because the amount of work Rajiv ji has done in this book is exemplary. He has exposed each of these agents, cited examples, how they work in America, who are their agents in India. All these details has been explained in this very voluminous book. So each of them are predators in their own zone. So I will not get into explaining each one of them, right? Environment, social governance, the fifth one there, right? And DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Having these ratings in corporate companies today has become very important. Without ESG and DEI ratings, no corporate entity can operate. They will give you rankings. Do you have diversity in your organization? Do you have more number of Dalits, more number of blacks, more number of, equal number of women, trans people, LGBTQ movement? Right? LGBT, the main purpose of the LGBTQ movement, it is to create a dysfunctional society and a dysfunctional family system. Firstly, it destabilizes your family system. Secondly, it destabilizes the social order. And by doing that, they are running a multi-billion crony capitalist industry. Hugely profit oriented, right? Sex change surgeries have been advocated by the LGBTQ movement. Young children have been sexualized. You are having all this good touch, bad touch nonsense for children in schools. And you know what female teachers are doing? I saw a video, very disturbing video. A female teacher is actively touching the private parts of a youngster. Not beyond, she is explaining, that is one thing, pointing out towards the private parts. She's touching and rubbing the private parts, front and back, of a young boy. That boy doesn't even know, I think a 5-year or 6-year-old kid who's in his first standard, he doesn't even know what's happening to him. This is happening in your schools. Please watch out for your children and grandchildren. They are under danger. These agents, these vultures of the deep states, these ideological bigots will eat up their lives. Please watch out of your kids. This is a serious battle that we all need to fight. Right? So, post-truth narratives came up. There is no truth now. Especially after the rise of the right-wing governments. Right-wing governments are becoming popular because of the catastrophic mistakes that the left wing has committed for a long time. They are not buying into the narratives of the left. So what the left has created, they have created that this contemporary era that we are living in, right, after 2010, happens to be an era of post-truth, where truth is not valued, satya is not valued. And Indian Gandhians and Indian Marxists are associating with the Gandhian movement. They say we need Gandhi back, right? Chetana Ahimsa. Can you link Chetana Ahimsa to the post-truth? This is where he comes from. This is the ideological narrative he wants to promote. He will not tell you openly, because if few people come to know about the post-truth, you will counter him intellectually. He doesn't want you to know that. Do you know where Prakash Raj is there? Prakash Raj is a product of postmodernism and post-structuralism. Right? He always talks about the breaking narratives. He always talks about dismantling the society. He always talks about bringing forward the Bahujan interest, the OBC interest and the SC interest, always. Why? Post-structuralism wants to destroy the existing social structure and the social order. That is the main ideological goal of post-structuralism. Right? All of you people, as professionals, as responsible citizens of this country, should know these ideological frameworks. There are far more. There are far more such ideological frameworks. I have not quoted everything because it's way too extensive. I cannot explain each one of them. Right? But please try to know them. Right? These are the things that are dividing India and will divide India further. It will divide India further, I am sure about it. Now comes the devil. You know, my professor always tells me, Pramod, you can't make a difference between the devil and the deep sea. It's very, very difficult to make a distinction between that. And my friend through knows who that professor is. Devil and the deep sea. So basically the civil services is both the devil as well as the deep sea. And deep sea, why? Because it's the deep state also. Right? That's why I called it the shaitan. You know, in Mecca they throw stones over the shaitan. Right? If we need to throw stones at someone, it is our civil servants. Right? From the civil services coaching institutes, the ideological training to induct them to be a part of the deep state begins. Coaching mafia in Delhi. I can name people here. I can name people who are doing this nonsense. They're prominent coaching institutes. Unfortunately, I was a part of one of those coaching institutes for 3 years. I also taught in one of them in Bangalore. So I exactly know how these people work. Right? All the books recommended to study for the civil services exam, the IAS, IPS exams, all by the leftists. Same old books, Romila Thapar, Irfan Habib, all these leftist scholars, Satish Chandra, right? Bipin Chandra. These people's textbooks have been abandoned by the Indian governments 20 years ago. But still these books are a very important set of books that people need to study if you need to clear civil services. Questions are asked from them even today. So who's setting the IAS exams question papers? Who is drafting the syllabus? Who is a part of the coaching industry? And the same bureaucrats, the retired bureaucrats, come and they become lecturers at these coaching institutes. They offer lectures, they offer mentorships, they offer the interview training program. And in the interview training program, all these things come up: secular values, liberal values, Gandhian framework, India's freedom movement, the role of the Indian National Congress. One book is always read after in the training program of the IAS officers in Lal Bahadur Shastri National Administrative Academy. You know what that book is? The role of the Indian National Congress in the Indian independence movement, written by PM Ken Panikkar. Ken Panikkar is a very famous author. He was one of the great chamchas of Nehru, but also a good intellectual I say. His intellectualism cannot be critiqued. If you read this book, you will come to a conclusion that it is the and only the Indian National Congress that got India's independence. The role of Subhash Chandra Bose is ignored, the role of Indian revolutionaries is ignored, the role of Hindu Mahasabha is ignored, the role of RSS is ignored. Blatantly ignored. Everyone, even including the socialists and communists, is ignored. This book very clearly says that India got its independence thanks to the Indian National Congress. That is the conclusion that this book draws, basically. Right? And it is one of the recommended compulsory readings for our IAS officers in the training academy even today. Right? People like Aruna Roy, people like Harsh Mandal, watch out these two names. Wherever you see these two names, try and counter them. They are one of the most pernicious danger elements of India's deep state. And they give training programs in the civil services institutes even till date. They are training our young officers. How will the IFS be if they are trained by such people? Of course, a few people will turn out to be nationalists thanks to their own reading. Because of their own interests, they will read something, they will turn out to be nationalists. But most people are still in the old liberal secular framework where India is not even a civilization. They discovered India. You know who discovered India, right? Who discovered India? All of you are very familiar. Discovery of India. Not Vasco da Gama. It is our first Prime Minister. It is our first Prime Minister, the legendary man. He discovered India. Before him, there was no India. So, right? Sitting in the Naini jail, in the comforts, he discovered India. Very nice narrative he has built. So, narratives like this are even actively promoted, and what is our government doing? What is the establishment doing? Why aren't the textbooks changed? People like Vikram Sampath are actively kept out of the academic world. They kept out of the intellectual world. He has not been given any government position. Till date, he is operating privately. He is running his own think tank now. He is appointing people there, giving fellowships to young people to write books. He is doing a wonderful job. But no, he is not a part of the establishment. You must all remember one line from the movie Kashmir Files. Government unka hai, but system, there you go. System has not changed a bit. After 11 years, almost close to 11 years, this is the state of affairs with the Indian government. Now, if this is the kind of state of affairs, US deep state will easily penetrate. People like Professor X will openly operate. Please note this. These three platforms have to be watched out by all of us. Today's artificial intelligence has been trained by the post-Marxists. They are actively involved in training the artificial intelligence tools. Right? They have created AI and social sciences centers in all major universities. Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, all these major universities across the world, prominent universities, prominent think tanks. They are all working towards training the artificial intelligence. And if you ask AI, probably about one of our Indian leaders, it will churn out the same nonsense. Oh, Modi is a communalist, Modi was involved in Gujarat, they will cite Tista Setalwad, they will cite this amateur journalist who wrote a book on Rana Ayub. These people are being cited if Modi's name is typed in AI. Right? All the AI tools. Why? They are actively involved in training the AI tools. AI, I think all of you should understand, AI is something that we need to train it. Right? If we don't train the AI will behave as per the information that it has been fed with. And whoever is feeding it, anyone can feed AI information. So we should also train AI to have more Indic narratives. If we do not have Indic narratives actively involved and engaged, and Indic frameworks, Indic ideological frameworks, Hindutva frameworks actively involved and engaged, the AI will take all wrong influences. And please watch out the next generation, because Instagram is involved in actively promoting sexuality. If you observe, I don't know how many of you have an Instagram profile. Just click the search button in Instagram. Look at all the recommendations that you get. Sexually explicit content, and I call it soft porn. Instagram is today actively promoting soft porn. They might be doing it for viewership, fine. But imagine a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid who has access to your mobiles. If that kid comes across these kind of content, sexually explicit content, a woman, a semi-naked woman dancing or going to bed with his partner, or Bhabhi sex is actually searched in this, right? Women wearing saris, in intimate scenes, short videos. I'm sure all of you have come across such things somewhere or the other. This has been actively promoted by Instagram. And Chinese are very brilliant. They don't allow any of these American platforms to operate within their country. China is better than us. I praise Xi Jinping for realizing this. Smart fellow. Of course, they are our rivals. No two things about that. But they have done a very smart strategy by absolutely excluding them. Can we do it? Of course not. But we have to fight back. We have to fight back in our own democratic way, because ultimately, see, whatever you may complain or have, a lot of opposition towards democracy. Democracy is ultimately the great liberator in the long run. You need to use democratic institutions and move forward. You can take the Chinese way every time. In YouTube, stupidity is promoted. And this is where Ranveer Alabadia comes. Right? All of you people were so obsessed with him for a week, and you missed the major chain of news for that entire week. The expose of the American deep state, which was promised by Donald Trump, which had to be the major news of that week, was not the news. Why? We were all busy. He is condemning Indian values and Indian culture. No, something great was happening. Something greater conspiracy was happening. We all missed it. There is an information, I know exactly why this was stopped. I can't openly say that. But that is why this Ranveer Allahabadiya issue came up. It was a big diversionary tactic, and the left wing today has succeeded in captivating a lot of minds of youngsters, including people of our own. Because Ranveer Allahabadiya had a lot of followers who are our own kids, who are pro-RSS, pro-BJP, call them whatever you may. They are all under a dilemma today. Why is he being targeted like that? He's our own boy. Oh, poor thing. BJP should not do this. Now left wing will capitalize on this. Great chance. We have given it to them. Right? On a platter, we have handed over our youngsters' mindsets in the hands of the leftists. They will easily manipulate. They will say now, look how conservative your people are. Look at the kind of orthodoxies they are promoting. They are not promoting free speech. They are not promoting liberties. They are not promoting a cool guy who wants to do some cool content. Right? Our youngsters are falling trap for it. Because I know I have students who have fallen trap for it. Half of my class is opposing my stance on Ranveer Allahabadiya. Sir, how can you oppose? Sir, how can you take an adverse stand on Ranveer Allahabadiya? He hasn't done anything wrong. People with greater crimes are walking around. Poor students, they don't understand the larger conspiracy that has been hatched against them by an ecosystem. Small issue for all of us, right? We were all opposing him. Oh, value of and culture of Indian values, Indian culture is violated and all those things. But look what the deep state has done. They wanted this to happen. They planned this. It was a toolkit. There was a toolkit devised to leak this issue, evoke the sentiments of the so-called orthodox conservative people, and expose them. And I am sorry to say they have succeeded completely. Now coming to Facebook. Facebook promotes what I call superstitions. That is why this is the triple S devil of these three major platforms. Superstitions, some Baba, some Tantric, some ghosts, some horror stories. All these things are propping up on Facebook these days. Why? Because it's actively promoting superstition. Actively. So the three devils, I will not go into much details, there are a lot of things to be said. But please watch out these platforms. Please ensure before you give these platforms into the hands of your kids. Even, if you press even the kids, button, right, the safety button, right, all of these platforms have, the videos where only kids can watch. Even that content has been sexualized. Cartoons have been sexualized today, right? Cartoons, young kids, puppies, dolls, young children who are shown to our kids. They are shown in sexual intimacy acts. Young kids, they don't need it. You need sex education only after 14-15 years. When puberty is achieved, then a lot of hormones hit you. That is when you need a lot of sexual education training programs. Not at 5 years, 6 year old. If they are sexual, that is why Ranveer Allahabadiya got away with the kind of statement he made. Where is it coming from? There is a definitive ideological framework that is doing all these activities. The woke movement has now had a major victory in India. The woke movement, it was not so victorious so far. Now it has got a major victory thanks to the Ranveer Allahabadiya movement. Thanks to this issue. They have been succeeded now. Okay, a lot of complaining, a lot of lamenting, a lot of fighting against the government has happened. But we need to think about the future. And to ensure a secure future, this is exactly what needs to be done. Need to develop a Hindutva deep state institutionalization for ecosystem. The process of institutions, process of developing stable, steady, long-run strategic institutions are important for us to have a deep state. We need to have a deep state of our own. The only way we can counter this deep state is to develop our own deep state. Our people should be in civil services. Our people should be in academia. Our people should be politicians. Right? Intellectuals. I am talking about strong, intellectually minded people. And I quoted one of them, Shri Arun Jaitley. We miss him. I terribly miss him today. Because he was one man who could give these people a tight whack wherever they need. We do not have many such people. Of course, Dr. Jaishankar probably is one of the only names that is there in the cabinet rank who understands this. He is doing his own thing, but one person is not enough. We need at least 10 ministers in the government to be a part of the Hindutva deep state. They should be, right? Actively promote the Shat Darshan of Indian philosophy. This should be the ideological framework of the Hindutva deep state. What should be the Hindutva deep state? Hindu philosophy, Indian philosophy, right? The Shat Darshanas. All the Shat Darshanas must be thoroughly studied by everyone so that they understand what is the Hindutva psyche, right? This is an ideological battle. This is the colonization of the mind. They have colonized our minds. We must recolonize them and decolonize them, right? For the decolonization process of the mind to happen, Hindutva philosophy and the Hindu philosophy, the Shat Darshanas must be in the central, right? We must develop Hindu theoretical frameworks, Hindu ideological frameworks, very, very important, right? Our own ideology. What is the opposite ideological framework to postmodernism, post-structuralism? Nothing exists, right? Against all these ideological frameworks, none of the Hindu frameworks exists, unfortunately. Some initial efforts have been started by people like Rajiv Malhotra, but other than him, I don't think much efforts have been done on an intellectual basis. But we need to do more. We need to work more. So Hindu theoretical frameworks, reconstruction of the Sanatan grand narrative. Grand narrative again is an idea of Rajiv ji, which has been repeatedly, he's been saying this on multiple platforms. We need a grand narrative of our own. The earlier, the better it is, right? So we need to promote rigorous scholarship. We need to give rise to genuine intellectuals, not emotional reactions. Not emotional. Has anyone given an intellectual response to Ranveer Adamadia using the Hindutva framework? How many have given that? Unfortunately, I haven't come across anyone who has given an intellectual response. Emotional posts and blogs and tweets and articles have been written. They're all emotionally driven. Oh, you are insulting the Sanatana. What is the counter to it? What is the intellectual counter to it? No. Because right wing, as I always say, is high on emotion and low on intelligence. Sorry state of affairs, but it is true. Right? That is why we need to develop rigorous scholarship and intellectualism. We need to encourage cutting edge R&D. It is the need of the hour. In science and technology, of course it is required because our investments are abysmally low by the Indian government. Both the government and the private sectors need to gear up their R&D ecosystem. It's needed. And the next thing is to develop Hindu-centric nationalist think tanks. Right? Nationalist think tanks are the need of the hour. Right? Research institutions are the need of the hour. To counter all these peoples, we need full-time think tankers, full-time academicians to do this work. Someone cannot do this work on a part-time basis on Twitter or on Facebook by countering them. We are countering them on Twitter and Facebook. We are countering them on YouTube. We are countering them through comments. We are countering them through appearing TV channels and making, giving emotional reactions. That doesn't hold good. The literature that you write like this, thousands of books like this have to be written. Thousands of books in each and every domain has to be written. That's why I say special and urgent attention needs to be, focus needs to be laid on humanities, social sciences, literature and liberal arts. All these domains we need our own deep state to be active, our own narratives to be promoted. Right? In the intelligence network, in the intelligence bureau, in the RNAW, we need to have nationalists always working. 60 to 70% of all these people should be there in the intelligence agencies. They should be. Otherwise, we cannot detect the national security threats and we will be hugely compromised. Right? So, second last point is the new generation of India-centric scholars, Indic-centric scholars or India-centrics you can call. We need public intellectuals, right? We have one Rajiv Malhotra, one Vikram Sampath, one J. Sai Deepak. No. We need at least 500 of them. At least 500. This is not a very aspirational number. This is a lower number because these 500 people might be taking on 150,000 people across the world. That is their strength. That's why I said at least we need 500 intellectuals to counter this. We must ensure that there are proper and structured funding given to the Hindutva ecosystem. Hindutva ecosystem, where it is lacking, almost on all these things, some or the other preliminary work has now begun in the last year. Preliminary work. Not much, but preliminary work. But we need to ensure that structured funding should be given to all these people.